Hello, friends. Today we're diving into the journey of a Swedish quartet that took the world by storm, Abba. For years, they were Sweden's biggest music idols. But everything changed in 1974, when a festival opened the doors to global stardom. After winning the Eurovision Song Contest with the iconic Waterloo, the world was introduced to a musical phenomenon that would never be forgotten. From that moment on, the group cemented their place in history with timeless hits, selling over 400 million records and becoming one of the most successful groups of all time, alongside the Beatles and Queen. But behind the dazzling spotlight, not everything was a fairy tale. Betrayals, breakups, and secrets only came to light years later. What really happened behind the scenes of Abba? Why did the group fall apart? And what led its members to follow such different paths? In 1966, Benny Andersson was a 19-year-old keyboardist for the famous Swedish band Hepstars, often referred to as the Swedish Beatles. That summer, at a party, he met BJORN Ulvaeus, then 21 years old, who was part of the folk music group Hootenanny Singers. The two quickly bonded over their love for music and soon began writing songs together. Their first composition, Isn't It Easy to Say, was recorded by Hepstars. This musical partnership would last for over a decade. Both Benny and Bjorn were signed to Polar Music, the record label owned by Stig Andersson, who would later become Abba's manager. For a while, the duo focused on composing songs for other artists, but soon fate introduced them to their future wives and the other half of Abba, AGNETHA Feldskog and Anni-Frid Lyngstedt. Before joining Abba, AGNETHA Feldskog was already a talented solo artist and writer. Her debut song, Jag var så kär, was a hit, selling 80,000 copies in Sweden. She also participated in Melodifestivalen, Sweden's national competition that works as a gateway to the prestigious Eurovision Song Contest. Although her song Fortune didn't make it to the final stage, AGNETHA continued to find success and became a national pop icon. She met BJORN Ulvaeus later in a dressing room after a concert, and the two fell in love, eventually marrying in July 1971. In the 2013 BBC documentary AGNETHA, Abba and After, BJORN recalled the first time he heard AGNETHA's debut single, saying he found it incredible that such a young girl was writing and performing her own songs, something quite extraordinary at the time. Meanwhile, Bjorn and Benny were also aiming for international exposure through Eurovision and began competing in Melodifestivalen in 1969. Behind the scenes, Benny met his future wife, Anni-Frid Lyngstedt, who was already pursuing a solo career and was also competing in the festival. Frida, as she came to be known, was born in Norway in 1945, during the German occupation. She was the result of a wartime romance. Her mother had a brief relationship with a German soldier and fled to Sweden with Frida after she was born. Tragically, Frida's mother passed away from kidney failure at just 21 years old, leaving her to be raised by her grandmother.
Från havet kom musik till varje liten vik. Så vi kan nog inte ha något bröllop i år.
Before achieving global fame, Bjorn, Benny, AGNETHA, and Anni-Frid collaborated casually, writing songs, producing, or even lending their voices to solo and duo projects. In 1970, they decided to aim higher. They created a cabaret show, attempting to merge their talents into an innovative performance. However, the audience didn't embrace the idea, and the project ended up being a failure. In 1972, they released People Need Love, a song that, despite modest expectations, achieved moderate success in Sweden.
People need hope, people need love.
By 1973, the group reached Melodifestivalen, Sweden's most prestigious music festival, in an attempt to secure a spot in the Eurovision Song Contest. With Ring Ring, they finished in third place. But most importantly, they gained recognition and established themselves as one of the most promising groups in the country. With this small victory came a big change. The quartet decided to drop their long, hard-to-remember name and adopt something simpler, a name that would go down in history, Abba. Abba's true breakthrough and international takeoff happened on April 6, 1974, at the Eurovision Song Contest held in England, where they triumphed with Waterloo.
I was defeated, you won the war.
It was Sweden's first ever Eurovision victory, putting the country on the map. Years later, Waterloo was still considered one of the greatest Eurovision songs of all time across Europe. The win propelled ABBA to new heights of success, making them recognized in several European countries, though they faced harsh criticism in their homeland. During the time when Swedes fell in love with ABBA's music, there was also a musical movement in Sweden that sought to bring a strong left-wing political message into music and free it from commercial demands. ABBA, on the other hand, aimed for musical perfection and professionalism, simply wanting to entertain people. This led to criticism from the movement, but for most people, the music critics' opinions were irrelevant, and the band only grew more popular. On Swedish radio stations, their songs were not played because they were not considered good enough. This forced fans to buy their records to listen to them, ironically boosting their album sales even further. Waterloo became a massive hit across Europe, even reaching the top 10 in the United States. However, winning Eurovision made it difficult for ABBA to be taken seriously, and some people even questioned whether they were just a one-hit wonder. It took about 18 months for them to achieve global success again with SOS from their third album, simply titled ABBA. This album also featured some of their most famous songs, including I Do, I Do, I Do, I Do, I Do, and Mamma Mia, which exploded onto the music scene in 1975, reaching #1 in Australia and the UK.
Mamma mia, now I really know my mind. So when you're near me, darling, can't you hear me a song? Oh, I've been dreaming through my...
By 1976, songs like Fernando and Dancing Queen, their only Billboard #1 hit in the United States, pushed the group to start recording versions in other languages other than Swedish and English. Their music crossed ideological borders and even challenged the Cold War. In 1977, Polar Music, the label behind ABBA, decided to produce ABBA the Movie, documenting their Australian tour. The film was even screened in the Soviet Union. Its premiere in December 1977 coincided with the release of ABBA the Album, which featured songs like The Name of the Game and Take a Chance on Me. The singles Summer Night in the City and Chiquitita were later included in their sixth album, Voulez-Vous, released in April 1979. However, at the beginning of that year, ABBA suffered its first major blow. BJORN and AGNETHA announced their divorce.
They were shining there for you and me, only you are the dancing queen, young and sweet. So I wanna know, what's the name of the game? Honey, I'm still free, take a chance on me. When the night comes with the action, I just know you'll be dancing once again, and the pain will...
Between 1972 and 1982, ABBA not only dominated the charts, but also faced challenges that shook the foundation of the group. One of the biggest blows came from where they least expected, their relationships within the band. From the beginning, ABBA had the image of a harmonious group formed by two loving couples. AGNETHA and BJORN got married in 1971, even before their rise to global stardom, and had two young children during the band's meteoric success. However, the relentless touring schedule began to take its toll. 7 years of traveling the world with no time for family made the stress unbearable. For AGNETHA, the impact was even more devastating. She missed her children, suffered from fear of crowds, loud noises, and open spaces, and, to make matters worse, developed a deep fear of flying. Her anxiety intensified with each new tour, and her marital issues with BJORN became unavoidable. Rumors of BJORN's infidelity only fueled the tension. According to various newspapers at the time, he allegedly had multiple affairs during their marriage. The strain finally led to their divorce in 1979. Just 1 week after the separation, BJORN was seen with another woman, the Swedish TV host Lena Kalehwa, whom he would marry 2 years later. In an interview, AGNETHA revealed that she went through a deep depression. The thought of having to go on alone drove me crazy. BJORN always took care of everything because we were so young, and when he got married again, I cried. It hurt so much that he had found someone so soon. The pain of this breakup would be immortalized in the songs the group would write from then on, becoming deeper and more melancholic, one striking example being The Winner Takes It All.
Tell me, does she kiss like I used to kiss you?
Many fans wondered over the years if BJORN, when writing the song, was being deliberately cruel by asking his ex-wife to sing songs like Tell Me, Does She Kiss Like I Used to Kiss You? In February 1981, the final blow to Abba's perfect couple image came when Benny and FRIDA announced their divorce. Although they had known each other and lived together since the late 60s, they only married in 1978, staying together for just 3 years. Shortly after the separation, Benny married the TV producer Mona Norklet, with his new relationship being one of the reasons behind the divorce. According to a 1981 article from the Swedish newspaper Expressen, Benny said, "I don't know how other people deal with things like this. FRIDA and I are still friends, and I'm a member of Abba. We are still good friends, but we are not married anymore. We discussed what was going to remain in the group, in spite of all we've been through. We decided to stay together for the sake of the music." In the fall of 1979, Abba was still a dominant force in the music scene. During this period, they released one of their biggest hits, Gimme Gimme Gimme, a true dance floor anthem. Shortly after, the album Greatest Hits Volume 2 hit the shelves, further solidifying the group's legacy. In March 1980, Abba embarked on their final tour, with Japan as their last destination. After that, they returned to the studio to record a new album, Super Trooper, featuring unforgettable tracks like The Winner Takes It All. The album reflected the emotional turmoil surrounding that difficult period. The following year brought The Visitors, 1981, a darker and more introspective album, filled with the melancholy of an inevitable farewell. The single One of Us almost felt like a premonition of what was to come. The truth is that despite their successful albums, Abba's magic had begun to fade. Internal conflicts, breakups, and the exhaustion of fame slowly drained the group's energy. And then, in 1982, came the announcement no one wanted to hear. Abba would be taking a temporary break. But fans soon realized that this hiatus would have no return. It cannot be denied that the divorces within Abba affected the group's dynamics, but they were not the only obstacles. In the early 1980s, Benny and BJORN also faced a creative crisis. At the same time, music critics labeled them as a short-lived phenomenon with no real musical depth. Despite the criticism, public support kept Abba relevant. Without directly addressing the negative reviews, the group chose to focus on their music and songwriting. It was a difficult and uncertain period, but it did not erase their legacy. BJORN and Benny continued working together after Abba's split, primarily composing musicals such as Chess and, notably, Mamma Mia, which reignited the public's love for the legendary band. Based on Abba's songs, the musical premiered in London in 1999 and was later adapted into a film in 2008, introducing their music to a new generation. BJORN Ulvaeus, now 79 years old, is the father of 4 children, 2 with AGNETHA and 2 with Lena Kalehwa. He has lived in Stockholm for decades and is also known for his humanitarian work. Benny Andersson, now 78 years old, is the father of 3 children. In 2001, he had to enter rehab due to alcohol addiction, but he has been fully recovered for years. Anni-Frid had a more difficult life compared to the other members of the group. Raised by a distant grandmother, she had already been married and had 2 children by the time Abba was formed. After the band's breakup, she pursued a solo career, and her first album, Something's Going On, sold over 1.5 million copies. In 1992, she became part of royalty when she married the Swiss prince Heinrich Russell. In 1999, he passed away from lymphoma at just 49 years old. A year earlier, tragedy had already struck. Her daughter died in a car accident at the age of 30. Today, she is believed to be the wealthiest of all ABBA members, with an estimated fortune of $300 million. Now 79 years old, she lives in Switzerland with her British boyfriend, Viscount Henry Smith. AGNETHA Feldskog, on the other hand, also produced a solo career, but without the same level of success as before. She withdrew from the spotlight after a 3-year marriage, the suicide of her mother in 1994, and her father's death the following year, and a series of stalking incidents by a fan. For years, AGNETHA neither sang nor listened to music. Her only wish was to live a normal life, so she isolated herself in Stockholm. AGNETHA only returned to public view in 2004 when she released a collection of 1960s covers titled My Coloring Book. She is now 74 years old. For decades, fans around the world eagerly awaited an ABBA reunion. Rumors were constant, but not even multi-million-dollar offers could persuade them. In 2000, at the height of an ABBA revival, a British-American consortium offered them $1 billion for a tour of 100 concerts. Their response? No. For them, ABBA's past should remain untouched. But time had its own plans. In 2021, after 40 years, the group shocked the world by releasing Voyage, a brand new album featuring 10 new tracks. And the following year, the unexpected happened. ABBA returned to the stage, but not in the way fans had imagined. In 2022, London hosted a revolutionary show. ABBA appeared on stage as digital avatars, faithfully recreated as they were in the 70s, shimmering outfits, glitter, and their iconic platform boots. This wasn't just nostalgia, it was a journey through time. BJORN captured this historic moment in a single powerful phrase. We have put our hearts and souls into these avatars, and they will take over from here. Did you already know ABBA's story? Do you enjoy the songs of this legendary band? Leave a comment, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. We have new videos every week. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.